Another day. It's Tuesday. It's right after the Labor Day weekend, and so we're here today to talk about a few stories. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of things. Always remember, subscribe, hit the bell, like the channel, do what you got to do. Let's just get on with this. Ready, set, go.
Hairstylists and other small business owners in San Francisco and elsewhere are doing what they need to do to survive. The point of releasing this video, if a woman in a high-risk age group who spends much of her time on TV warning about the dangers of COVID-19 feels safe and comfortable in a San Francisco salon and can be responsible for being cautious and mindful, why can't the rest of San Francisco and the rest of America do that too? I don't owe anyone an apology. Mrs. Pelosi owes the entire country an apology.
So let me catch you up real quick. So remember this past few days, past weekend, Nancy Pelosi came out and said she had nothing to apologize for. She actually needed to be apologized to by this person, the salon owner, who let her in, use the salon. Well, she didn't let her in. She actually gave permission to the people who she rents out to be able to use the place when they can. But of course, I'm guessing following the guidelines, Nancy Pelosi, who's well aware of these guidelines, went ahead and went in and used the place. But anyway, so let's continue here.
If America goes in front of Congress and lies, they go to jail. But apparently, when the most powerful woman in the world lies to America, we owe her an apology.
Okay, so we're going to start here, and you just saw the video. The video covers it pretty much, but essentially what happened was this person got a lot of flack, from many people. And like everything else, right? Everything's divided right now. So some people were saying, hey, what she did was good. She put Pelosi out there, and Pelosi's now, at the center of a discussion in terms of what's going on out here. Okay, so we have to follow these strict guidelines, but she doesn't. On the other end, people actually said, you know what, this person's really doing something that we all kind of feel and understand. Why is it if Pelosi doesn't have to follow it, why do I have to follow this? Obviously there's other reasons we want to take care of each other in terms of COVID, but it's just not right that people are struggling right now and they're not bringing home their paychecks and they're not able to, make money. And so in this case, this particular story says a GoFundMe campaign for a salon owner who released footage of Pelosi raises $300,000. So a GoFundMe was set up and she raised $300, $300,000. And so that's what's going on with this. I think it's kind of awesome, that people get together, regardless of what you believe and whether you thought what she did was right or wrong, in terms of, I don't think it was a setup. I mean, whatever it is. But in her case, Pelosi happened to do it. Pelosi shouldn't have. If let's just play devil's advocate and say that she really was set up, and Pelosi, who is one of our leaders, knew about this. Somebody, let's just say they approached her and said, hey Nancy, we want to take you, free haircut. We want to give you a free haircut because we appreciate you so much. And Pelosi should say, well, we're under coronavirus guidelines right now, and because of that, I really can't. And so I will take you up on your offer as soon as these guidelines are lifted, or at least let me do this in a situation where it's within the law. That would have made sense. And the setup, if it was to be called that, wouldn't be so, because she would know the laws. That being said, I don't think it was a setup. Even if it was, she shouldn't have gone for it. And if it wasn't a setup, she does deserve to give the public an apology. I would like an apology. Hey, I try to follow the guidelines. I put on a mask. I'm careful. I use the sanitizer. I don't want to get anyone else sick, if I happen to catch something. I try to be respectful of that, and I expect that out of my leaders as well. So Nancy, I'm waiting because I would like one too. So as we wait, we're going to continue on to another story. I think we might be waiting for a long time, or if not forever, because I don't think she will fess up to it. Anyway, so we're moving on here. So next story we have is San Francisco gym owners livid after discovering gyms in government buildings have been open for months. Did you hear that? These have been open for months. And so it doesn't go into too much as to what kind of guidelines they're following. But my issue is not that if I wanted to go to a gym, I have my own equipment I use. I don't really use gyms, but if I wanted to, because we should all be healthy and take care of ourselves. It says gyms within government buildings in San Francisco have been open for months despite privately owned establishments being ordered to close due to the coronavirus. Everybody else is closed. There are local businesses here in this area that they've come down on, have given heavy fines to them because they've decided to stay open, and they've continued some of them. Again, I don't blame them. They got to make a living at the same time. People want to be healthy. And during this time where we're all enclosed indoors and lacking vitamin D, exercise, and everything else that's necessary, it's kind of a toss up in the air in terms of what you want to follow here. The gyms, it says the gyms that have been open for government employees include those for police officers, judges, lawyers, bailiffs, and paralegals, according to the report. One such gym, the Hall of Justice Gym, has been open since July 1st. September. We're in September. Since July 1st. Now, Governor Newsom has not allowed the opening of these places, but apparently if you work for him and within the government, you are allowed to go and use these places. It just demonstrates that there seems to be some kind of double standard between what city employees are allowed to do and what the residents of San Francisco are allowed to do. It's not right. I'm sorry. If you're going to say we cannot use these things, make it across the board, including yourself. It was a slap in the face that she went in, and it's talking about Pelosi, I believe here. That she went in, that she feels that she can just go in and get her stuff done while no one else can go in. I can't work. Salon owner Erica Caius told Fox News last week of Pelosi. So again, these kind of intertwine. There's a lot of stuff going on. So we have Nancy getting her hair done, and we have these people who work in the government going in and taking care of themselves while you sit at home and gain weight and get unhealthy and die of a heart attack or whatever it is, because number one, we're stressed, right? People are stressed out. And number two, they're not able to take care of their bodies. It's not right. Let's work together, people. Let's work together, governors, bailiffs, judges, lawyers, whatever you are, especially judges and lawyers. You really should be working for the public. If you see an issue with these things, work with us. Again, yes, we have to be careful with COVID, but again, if there's a problem with it, it should be across the board. Don't create this hypocritical mess, please. It's not funny and it's not good. Okay, here's our other story. So Seattle police have declared riots during recent protests. In legal terms, what does that mean? And so the reason I'm looking at this particular article is it says in 2013, the state legislature removed the word riot from the law pretty much altogether, instead defining violent, illegal gatherings as criminal mischief. Okay, what is wrong with that statement? Okay, so a riot typically in the past was exactly like it describes here, violent, illegal gatherings. Now they're violent because people are wreaking havoc, burning down things, businesses, homes. They may be beating people down. They may be killing people. They may be destroying who knows what. Okay, that's a riot. It's out of control. It's not a peaceful protest. That's what a riot was. And so the world that we live in now is kind of a double speak situation where, it's not what it's not what it is, it's what you call it. And so if we say that something is something else, then that's what it is, just because we named it something different. That's just not the case. And so that's I'm going to jump ahead here. It says people within the protests were setting fires, including burning several trailers at the construction site for the new youth jail a number of businesses were also vandalized. This was during a Seattle riot, which is what it was. Um, it says armored clad officers moved into large crowd from at least two directions, ordering people to disperse while deploying pepper spray, blast balls, and blue nose foam tipped projectiles. According to witnesses, the officers targeted not just protesters, but legal observers, civilians, medics, journalists. At least 49 demonstrators were arrested. Police said at least 59 officers were injured. And so that sounds pretty intense. If we jump ahead a little more, again, back to 2013, the legislature in 2013 amended the state criminal code to change the crime of rioting to criminal mischief, a gross misdemeanor whose elements are similar to the crime of failure to disperse, being in a group of three or more people, and using or threatening to use force against people or property. The change in the law took place the next year. Again, when we change it and we reduce what it is, and again, I know some people say, okay, well, you can't treat everything harshly. You can't just throw somebody in jail, three strikes laws and all these things. That's fine. If you want to argue that, that's fine. But when you remove any or remove consequence, then it's likely that things will progress further in terms of if you're going to see damage and you're going to see issues with protesters or rioters or whatever you want to call them, if you're going to see that before, you're going to see much more after that because there is no true consequence. It's like a child. When you have a child, if you do not give them consequence, you're going to see that their actions are actually going to elevate to a point where you're finally going to react, and that's what we see here. And I guess that's the intention, right? A protest, it's supposed to be to bring attention and to bring change. A riot brings attention, could bring change, but at the same time, that's the point. You're going to escalate things to a point that you're going to see a reaction. And so if it's a riot, not a peaceful protest, that means you're going to see a lot of destruction, a lot of pain, and a lot of injury. Until somebody says, oh, hold on. Now, some may say that's the point. Okay, if you have that stance, so be it. But I don't think that's always the best way to go. An interesting article says 93% of Black Lives Matter protests have been peaceful. New York report finds. Okay. I have a little bit of an issue with this, and let me tell you why. I have a lot of issues apparently today. And so the armed conflict, okay, let me start here. The vast majority of Black Lives Matter protests, more than 93%, have been peaceful, according to a new report published Thursday by a nonprofit that researches political violence and protests across the world. The Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, or ACLED, analyzed more than 7,750 Black Lives Matter demonstrations in all 50 states and Washington, D.C. that took place in the wake of George Floyd's death between May 26th and August 22nd. Okay, so there's been that many according to them. Now, it doesn't say what size, doesn't say really where, doesn't really say much other than a large number of Black Lives Matter demonstrations. And so their report states that, okay, here's the key. More than 2,400 locations reported peaceful protests, while fewer than 220 reported violent demonstrations. Okay. Sounds good as you read it. Okay, we have 2,400 locations, okay, reported peaceful protests. So 2,400 protests, let's just call it that. While fewer than 220 reported violent demonstrations. Okay. When we take those numbers and we apply it to the 7,750 demonstrations, and you do the math, it doesn't line up. That's the problem. It doesn't line up. When you take the 220 against the 750, it doesn't line up. When you take the 2,400 against the 750, it doesn't line up. What about the rest of them? What about the rest from the 7,750? If we're accounting for 2,400 peaceful, 22 violent, that's 2,620, 2,620. What about the remaining 5,000 some? Don't know. They don't talk about that. Why don't we know about that? I want to know if you make a statement such as 93% of them are peaceful, which I do hope they are. Based on what I see in the news, I don't believe they are. That being said, I have known some locally, in the LA area and different places, that have been peaceful. And so peaceful in the sense of not too much destruction. There's some that I have heard that they did loot, they did break into things, they did, cause havoc. Portland continues, they continue burning, continue injuring, continue doing different things. Seattle continues. We saw the ones in Kenosha. We've seen them in Atlanta. We've seen them all across the board. And so, again, whenever you see percentages and statistics, always question, let me look into this because you or give me a piece of the puzzle and probably not the whole thing. And so it goes on and on and on. And again, once I see those numbers, I'm like, I need to look into this a little more because your numbers are not matching up with what you're telling me. Moving on, we're running out of time here. Trump launches unprecedented attack on military leadership he appointed. Okay, really quick, just wanted to touch on a couple of things here. Okay, back during the Bush presidency, W, not daddy. Back during that time, okay, the left really, really pushed hard against the military-industrial complex. That was the issue. Okay, we had Halliburton, we had all these organizations, and so during that time, I considered myself mod left as opposed to a mod right, and I actually was out there in the streets with people as well. And so during that time, it was interesting because that's what the argument was. We're too much war against this war, which I still think the Iraq war was totally unnecessary. With the exception of some things. But anyway, we can go into that some other time because it's really a multi-sided issue. But during that time, the left would have said, this is great. Okay, so we have Donald Trump saying, says President Trump launched an unprecedented public attack against the leadership of the U.S. military on Monday, accusing them of waging wars to boost the profits of defense manufacturing companies. Okay, he's going against a military industrial complex? What? Okay. I'm not saying the military's in love with me, he says. The soldiers, and this is via CNN, the soldiers are. So he's saying the soldiers are in love with him. The top people in the Pentagon probably aren't because they want to do nothing but fight wars so that all of those wonderful companies that make the bombs and make the planes and make everything else stay happy, Trump told reporters at a White House news conference. Did you catch all that? Okay, Trump is saying that the point to that these people and these companies just want to make bombs and planes to make themselves money and be happy, and he's against that now. Could be political in terms of, okay, we have this huge discussion about, and that's where it goes on to where he made these comments. There's the Atlantic's reporting on his comments that he said against soldiers, so on and so forth. Some people are saying absolutely because of what he said about John McCain. That's evidence for me, and I'll take it. Some people are saying these are anonymous sources. Why would you believe something that's gossip? If I say, I heard that you went to this place and you stole a bike, who told you? Somebody. What? No. Okay. If you get anonymous sources, that's not valid. You have to have names. Okay. And there's people who say, well, I talked to so and so. Some reports say I've talked to so and so who's this person in this position, and they've verified it. But you can also argue that Sir Sanders, she came out and said, that it's not true. She was there and not evident. What's his name? John Bolton came out and said, no, this is not accurate. And this is a guy who was attacking Trump. So what? Seriously, just come on. Okay. I don't know if he said it. Trump says a whole lot of stuff, a ton of stuff. Half the time, I think he thinks about it after he says it. And that's who he is. And so did he say it or not? I don't know. He has said some snarky things about people. But anyway, the point here that I want to make is I just find it really interesting that now he's taking the position that most leftists would have been for, but because it's Trump, we're not going to give him that. We're going to just focus on the fact that, there's this allegation about what he said. Interesting stuff. I don't even know what to say about it. So the next one says that 2 arrested after Trump supporters, this is from Fox News, Proud Boys clash with far left demonstrators at Oregon State Capitol. And so I'm not going to show you any videos. So this last video, I was flagged. Somebody turned me in. Thank you. But somebody turned me in for whatever reason. This is a PG channel. I'm not going to put cuss words on here if I can help it, if I notice them. I'm not going to incite violence. That's not my goal. I'm not going to show you. I even cut out parts of a video because they were somewhat violent. Somebody reported I'm going to have to be more careful about my videos, though. Again, I cut out a lot of stuff, so I'm not going to show you. Here's some pictures of it. These guys were chasing another person. It sounded like something happened right before that. There's mention about paintballs being shot at people, and there's a couple instances where they chase down these people and they take them down and start beating them. Um, Guys, what do you expect? This is gonna happen. You know, there's when there's leftists or progressives or whatever you want to call them on the other side and they attack people, that's going to happen in a riot. When you have people attacking people during a protest, right, whatever you want to call it, there's going to be now apparently opposition. So things are getting ugly. Stop. Just stop. There's not much more to tell you here. I'm sure many of you have seen the video. If you haven't, it's easy to find. Just look it up. But again, just kind of straightforward stuff there. And so this one here, just real quick. So there's a Christian group, so-called Christian, launches a new effort to convince swing state believers that their faith should lead them to vote against Trump. And so here's a quick video for you guys.
So now people say, well, Frank, how can you defend him when he's lived such a sordid life? I never said he was the best example of the Christian faith. He defends the faith, and I appreciate that very, very much.
Okay, so Franklin Graham, he here he's you can say he's defending Trump, not defending Trump, whatever. Okay, so here he's kind of saying, okay, look, this guy at least defends the faith. Maybe he's not perfect, but he defends the faith. You know, we don't defend him in terms of what he does or doesn't do. But there's a Christian group that's coming out saying essentially against Franklin Graham, against anybody who happens to go for Trump. And again, whether you're for Trump, not, that's not really the point here. The point is this group is fighting against him, and they're against anybody who isn't. And it's a group called the Faithful American. So when I look up this group, and they call themselves a Christian group, I'm always curious to see if you call yourself something, okay, are you truly that? Okay, so I looked them up, and so Faithful America, and if you look through some other stuff, they call themselves Christian. I don't believe they truly follow the teachings of the Bible. I'm sure that you can argue that some of it they do, but they're essentially, like it says here, it says we're the largest online community, it says Christians putting faith into action for social justice. Okay, I think they're first and foremost social justice practitioners rather than Christians. Just my opinion. I consider myself a Christian. I read my Bible. I don't think these guys really follow it, but again, that's my opinion, and also the opinion of Paul in the Bible. So based on what they stand for. So anyway, just putting that out there. Always got to look at who is saying what, and if you put a label on yourself, such as Christian group, what does that mean? Okay, there's many Christian groups, and not all of them are truly Christian in terms of the Christian faith. So really just keep an eye out for that. Look at the facts and look at what's behind it. Look at what their goal is. It's a social justice group, not really a Christian group, my opinion. But anyway, I just ran into it, thought it was kind of interesting. Trump sends second stimulus checks with COVID relief funds. Okay, so quick on this. I'm running through these really quick because I'm running out of time here. President Donald Trump says Congress should, and this is via Forbes, President Donald Trump says Congress should send second stimulus checks now and use $300 billion in remaining COVID funds. So apparently there were $300 billion in remaining COVID funds that were set up for small businesses is what they're thinking. $300 billion that was not used. And Trump is saying, well, if it's there, let's give it to the people. Okay, I'll take it. So we'll give it to the people. The issue and the remaining issue, and here's a little bit of what it looks like. So 300 weekly unemployment benefits, 105 billion in school funding, 250 billion in funding for payment protection program, 10 billion grant to U.S. Postal Service. Carrying on here, it says, however, the new stimulus bill is not expected to include any stimulus checks. Okay, so it's a skinny bill, what they're calling it. And this bill is not looking to include that. Now, that being said, that's before the 300 billion. So if that's included, then that may be. And this is only because the Democratic Party at this point, if I carry on here, it says, while more Senate Republicans would support a smaller legislative proposal, Democrats want a larger bill. Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are likely unwilling to agree on an even smaller bill than the HEALS Act, which at 1 trillion was deemed too small. Democrats initially proposed 3 trillion stimulus package. And so they wanted a heck of a lot more money. The issue that I have, and I think the issue that many people have, is that they want a ton more money in there, 3 times as much, because it's not just about stimulus. It's not just about COVID. It says 1 trillion in funding for state and local governments. Why? Because the states and, the states that have had riots, call them protests, call them whatever you want, the states that have gone through this, they are asking for money. Why? Because their cities are destroyed. They're in shambles. And they're asking for this money, and Trump is saying, we're not giving you this money. Stand where you will. I think if the government was willing to take responsibility and they're willing to try to stop such actions, and again, I'm not talking about protests. Peaceful protest is okay. Peaceful protest is in our Constitution. Peaceful protest is expected. But as soon as there's a spark of violence, it needs to be stopped before somebody gets killed, before somebody gets hurt, before somebody's business gets torn down, before somebody's livelihood is destroyed. It needs to be stopped. As soon as there's a fire lit, it's done. Turn it off. As soon as, somebody's injured, turn it off. As soon as anything that shouldn't happen happens, turn it off. And some will argue, well, there's always instigators. Well, of course there will be. Don't align yourself with them, right? If I was out and about, and like I said, in the past, I've dabbled in these things. If I was out and about and there's a group of agitators, why would I stand next to them? Okay. If I sit in a car with somebody who, say they possess an illegal substance or say they're doing something illegal in my car and I'm sitting with them, I am liable for that as well, even though I did not participate. Move away. Move the group. Get away from those people. It's time to move on to another street. The issue is things get heated up and everybody's emotional and everybody gets involved. That's the issue. So anyway, carrying on here, 600 weekly unemployment benefits and 60 billion for food insecurity, among other initiatives. So there's many other pieces to the legislation that Democrats want to push. And that's part of the problem here, that this is why it's not going through. So the proposal initially was stimulus checks, helping the situation, COVID, so on and so forth. There's a ton of other things associated, and that's why it's not going through. So thank you, people who are not willing to work together to help out the public. Moving on here. Next one. And so let's jump over to Oxford vaccine trial on hold because of safety issues. Okay. Let me jump real fast through this. Our standard review process, this is on MSN, and it was actually an NBC News article. Our standard review process was triggered, and we voluntarily paused vaccination to allow review of safety data by an independent committee. The company said in a statement, this is a routine action which has to happen whenever there is potentially unexplained illness in one of the trials. They're having issues with the trials. We are, according to the president, less than 2 months possibly where we would have a vaccine. They're having issues with it. There's unexplained illness, at least in one of the trials. I said it before, I'm not lining up for this thing. And neither should you, but that's your choice. Serious reactions do occur in vaccine trials. Dr. Gregory Poland, an infectious disease expert and director of the Mayo Clinic vaccine, so on and so on. I'm not going to finish this. I'm going to move on to the next one. But you get the point. There's issues with it. We're really close. Be careful. Look into it. It's kind of scary. Moving on. 8-year-old girl shot to death in another violent weekend in Chicago. Okay. 8-year-old girl shot to death. Not much to say here. It's continuing. Where are the protests? Where are the supporters of this child? There have been numerous kids that have been killed in Chicago. At least 51 people were shot in Chicago, 10 fatally over Labor Day weekend, one weekend. If we continue here, carries on, it says there have been 37 people under the age of 18 shot to death in Chicago this year. This year alone. 37, under the age of 18. It's ridiculous. Why are we not supporting this? I've put it out there, in different places, hey, why aren't we here? Let's jump in a bus. Let's go help out these people. Let's find a way. Why are we burning down cities rather than building up? Seriously, look at this child. I'm moving on. That's not much more to say. People are aware. It's been weekend after weekend, shooting after shooting, tons and tons, and kids dying, and it's just not okay. Stop. It says Boston television reporter. I'm going to just jump to this really quickly. Okay, the reason for this one, it's a very short story. It just talks about a Boston television reporter who was stabbed on the job over the weekend. His station confirmed. Ted Wyman, a reporter for WCVB TV, is recovering after he was stabbed, apparently with scissors. Okay. The point to this is, what I want you to see is, I'm going to go through, this is ABC News. You read through it. It reads almost identical to B News. It's pretty much the same article. You look at New York Post, actually gives us a little bit more information, but essentially the same article. And just wanted to point that out. Many times you find articles and you go to different news stations, providers, and they're identical, word for word. There is no, it might change a sentence, maybe, if you're lucky. But plagiarism does not exist in this, apparently. And I don't like that, because we're supposed to get different perspectives. We're supposed to get, that's the whole point to journalism, is that people do investigations, they go into there and we receive information. When we have a copy and paste across all these services, that lends me to think there is a huge narrative, and I'm going to get a little conspiratorial, an agenda here. You want me to know what you want me to know, and that's about it. Nothing can really remove itself from that. Jumping on to the next one here, wildfires. I'm going to run through this quickly also. Just wanted to share with you guys real quick. So there are fires all over the place in California. So 3 firefighters hospitalized with injuries and from battling the wildfire in California. Okay, I just read that. And the Dolan fire in Central California on Tuesday were injured and airlifted to a hospital. One remains in critical condition, and it has burned more than 73,000 acres. Okay, 73,000 acres. When we jump ahead here, I'm going to come right over here. Okay, so this one, I did a little bit of math. So one of them mentioned 220, I think it was 1,000 acres. I forget what got the number, but the point was it was 3,000 miles, essentially, 3,400 miles. That is huge. There's so much destruction going on right now here. And jumping on to the next one here. So I just want to play this video really quick, a short piece, and have a discussion about it. Here we go.
Forest Supervisor Susan Skalski still can't fully grasp the destruction. 30,000 acres of trees so badly burned that the U.S. Forest Service says they need to come down.
In some places we have at most the stems of trees standing. The reason why we don't want to leave all the dead trees on the landscape is that it's just providing that fuel load for a future fire.
So the Forest Service has proposed to take out the trees in a process called salvage logging, where dead trunks are cut down and the lumber is sold for profit. It's already happening on nearby private land.
Even though this wood is charred and completely black, timber companies see nothing but green. That's because salvaged wood is still valuable. In fact, this site alone provides enough lumber each day to build 2 American homes.
Salvage logging
So
in
the point to that, why am I sharing that? Okay. So it says here, logging debate, KQED, okay, back in 2014. Last year's Rim Fire burned 250,000 acres in and around Yosemite. Okay, this is 2014. We've had fires almost every year, possibly every other year. Some of them really, really bad, really huge fires. And the debate was, it says it was one of the largest fires in California history, and it left a lot of dead trees. Later this week, the U.S. Forest Service is expected to announce it will let logging companies cut down some of those trees. Okay, our environment's important, but my confusion and my issue is we have huge fires. We protect the trees, and yes, we should protect them. Some of them, they've been here for thousands of years, and we got to protect those. But there are ways in which we can work with nature to protect it, to do controlled burning, to do different things. The difference is right now we have thousands upon thousands of acres burning, lives being lost, homes being burned, versus doing it in a manner where it's controlled and we can prevent deaths and burning of homes, so on and so forth. And either way, we actually looks like we might be losing more forest through wildfire, than through a controlled method. Something to consider. I don't see, it doesn't make sense. We're losing it anyway because that's what nature does. It grows, it dries, and lightning and other things happen, and sometimes arsonists get out there too, and wreaks havoc. And that's just naturally going to happen. So I just wanted to throw that in there. It's like, if it's gonna burn anyway, why don't we do something preventative rather than being proactive rather than reactive? And that's where I got the number. So California wildfires have burned more than 2.2 million acres. That's a ton, and that's where I got that. So that's a lot. And so we're gonna jump to here. It says Portland police deploy tear gas, declare riot after protester catches fire. I can't show you the video because I don't want to get dinked again, but here's a picture of the guy getting burned. And so, guys, lesson here, don't play with fire. Just don't. All right, guys, just wanted to leave you with a video here, just one more video to go, and just enjoy it. Just remember to hit the button, hit the bell, subscribe, like the video, share it, talk about it, pass it around, do whatever you need to do, and we'll see you guys next time. Enjoy the video. Go.
1.2 billion. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What happened?
See you guys. Bye.